What Price Hollywood is a 1932 pre-code Hollywood drama starring Constance Bennett, with no with Lowell Sherman and Neil Hamilton, who we've seen Constance Bennett with before. This is the origin of The Star Is Born. It ends up getting remade a good couple of times under that title, but yes, it's the familiar story of waitress starlet is discovered by a director. As her career skyrockets up, his goes crashes down under the weight of all his alcoholism. Yeah, and this was a snappy, kind of. I've seen the Judy Garland version, and it's hard to touch the Judy Garland version. But this is the 1930s very kind of snappy, very efficient, very kind of knowing 1930s version of this story. And Constance Bennett, she has some dramatic scenes, which is very much it's that 1930s acting of drama. I actually really enjoyed Lowell Sherman, who actually dies fairly shortly after this as the director. Who, yeah, he was both an actor and director himself, and seems to bring that in his role. But he also just has kind of a certain kind of a I mean, he's got the snappy kind of witty quips down, but he's also got kind of a certain amount of kind of soulfulness to him, a kind of ruefulness of like, I know my alcohol is destroying me, kind of thing. While not getting too deep into this, we're not trying to explain. I mean, it's an addiction to alcohol that he has. And yeah, it's striking for that they actually have a couple of montages in here, especially the montage of the kind of the end of Lowell Sherman's character, which was kind of, you don't not expecting that in a Hollywood 1930s movie, but it's fairly good. I mean, it's funny. Star Is Born, the Judy Garland one, is fairly long, and this one is like, nope, 1930s movies. We are not fucking around. We just click, 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 click. Neil Hamilton is back as kind of the playboy boyfriend who marries Constance Bennett's Mary Evans, and yeah, he does a solid job. I mean, it's sort of a stick in the mud performance. He's the Hollywood outsider who gets frustrated that Mary is devoting all her time to both her stardom and to trying to help this alcoholic friend of hers, kind of getting in between. It does a good job of showing kind of the hunger of the crowd. There's a scene of them coming out of of Constance Bennett and Neil Hamilton coming out from their wedding and being swarmed by this crowd, and like people are ripping and like yanking hair off of poor Constance Bennett's head. It's like there's that kind of savage hunger, and that kind of plays out throughout the whole thing. It is one of these movies where having seen the Judy Garland one first, it's like, oh yeah, this in some ways it feels like a first draft, where there's a couple of things, like there's a reference to her winning maybe an Academy Award, and that's kind of expanded with a disastrous scene of the director Star, I believe he is in that movie, having a disastrous moment at the Oscars, not almost at the Will Smith level, if not like equivalent, definitely career ending that way. The press, there's a guy who's like the publicity department in the Judy Garland one, who's very striking for his kind of rather savage, casual ruthlessness, and very kind of like, just like, this is how things go. And they don't have that character here, but and it's quite a good addition. So you can see where they kind of improved. That said, this is Constance Bennett getting to be Constance Bennett again. I just jumped forward into the 40s within her filmography, and it's nice to see her back here, hair down in glamorous gowns, getting to kind of just be Constance Bennett, that just very kind of likable, kind of a little bit wise, wistful performance. I just really enjoy that in here. There's a appearance by Eddie Rochester Anderson. He has the nickname Rochester because he goes on to play Jack Benny's butler in his radio show and TV show, where he's not doing any of that here. There are black characters in this. it's not as bad as it has been in other ones, even though there's a black maid who, it's still, it's kind of, it's the comedic role, which I guess black or white you would get is just like, doing that as a black, as a black person. Yeah, yeah. This was one of these movies that apparently it was. This is considered directed by George Cukor, who actually wanted to get, is it Mary Bow? Wanted to get Mary Bow for this. Clara, or is it Clara Bow? Clara Bow for it as the female lead because she'd been having troubles. Apparently, she'd been suffering from alcoholism, and just because she was still suffering from alcoholism, this couldn't be her comeback role. It's interesting that the history of this thing, because this the Judy Garland Star is Born, it was sort of her comeback picture after her struggles with addiction and such like that. So yeah, it's interesting just kind of the history of this movie and how it played out. But yeah, Lowell Sherman was really it's like, I know what I'm going to get some good Constance Bennett, and I did get good Constance Bennett, but I'd say Lowell Sherman was definitely the standout here. I feel like with Neil Hamilton, you get the sense of like, okay, you can see why this was kind of him hitting his peak probably as a leading man, but he didn't have, it's like he's likable and stuff like that, but he's definitely more just like a foil for Sherman and for Bennett to kind of bounce off of, and was okay in that state. So yes, that is, yeah. And Constance Bennett considered Wht Prc Hllywd her greatest film. So there's still some more Constance Bennett for me to see. Hopefully I'll be able to end off I'm gonna make sure that I finish off my Constance Bennett run with a 1930s film, because that's where I feel like she seems to be really gets to be Constance Bennett, and get all the 40s films out of the way, because you can tell that she's going back down the thing, and we're into code pictures where her kind of bad girl stuff isn't going to fly as much, even though I guess it could be hinted at in something like a noir film, like is it the 1940 Unsuspected, which was which was okay. All right, yes, I'm now rambling. I've been Jay. More videos later. More Constance Bennett movies later. Bed of Roses, I believe.